Next game we're talking about, Dalton, is number 15 Ole Miss at number 13 Alabama, 3:30 p.m. on CBS. And the biggest storyline for me in this game is, can Ole Miss get healthy offensively? Because right now that Rebels offense is banged up. Quinshon Judkins, who I think is one of the best running backs in the country, was limited this past weekend against Georgia Tech with an upper body injury. Wide receiver Trey Harris right now tied for third in the country with 5 receiving touchdowns. He missed the game against Georgia Tech with a knee injury. Caden Prieskorn, who I had as a top 10 tight end entering the season, he missed all of the season so far with a knee injury. And also Zachary Franklin, who a lot of people thought would be Ole Miss's number one receiver. He was preseason first team All SEC for us, transferring in from UTSA. He has also not played yet this season with a knee injury. So a lot of beat up guys right now. Now the good news is both Trey Harris and Caden Prieskorn are practicing this week. Don't know about Zachary Franklin. He probably won't be able to go. And Quinshon Judkins obviously played last week, so I'll be surprised if he can't this week. But this is a beat up Ole Miss offense, man. And Alabama still, as bad as Alabama's looked so far, their defense still has the 5th best coverage grade in the Power 5. So I think Ole Miss, the Rebels, really need to get healthy pretty quickly.
They do, and I think a big part of it last week, playing Georgia Tech, who they just had a major advantage against. I think they could play it cautious against a team like Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
They still scored 48 points on Georgia Tech, not being anywhere near 100%. So I think they were looking ahead to this game, knowing that if anybody was borderline, they need all the help they can get in Tuscaloosa. You always do. It's no matter what Alabama looks like, it's hard to win out there. So they being healthy. Look, this was a wicked competitive game last year. Ole Miss was 14 yards from winning this game last year.
Mm-hmm.
They know what's in front of them, and they know they need to be fully prepared. And I think there's a part of that, of holding guys out against Georgia Tech, knowing, you never like to take games for given, but knowing that they were going to beat Georgia Tech, that Georgia Tech's just not prime time like that.
Yeah.
Really playing for this week. And I think eventually, if they get Hawkins back and they get Judkins in there 100%. They've had other guys step up. You've had Jordan Watkins step up. You've had Dayton Wade step up at receiver. You've got several guys who are really dangerous on their offense. And if they're fully loaded, they may still score a lot of points on Alabama.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, like I said, I think Zachary Franklin's the only one that I don't think might be ready to go. We'll see. But Caden Prieskorn and Trey Harris are both practicing this week, so that is good news for the Rebels. But Dalton, is there a matchup that you're watching in this game? And I have a feeling it might come on the other side of the ball.
It's Alabama's pass protection against Ole Miss. It's right now 99th in the country overall. They have, against the blitz, they have a 47.8 pass protection grade. Against stunts, it's 28.9, which is still somehow just outside the bottom 10. But Ole Miss stunts and blitzes at well above average rates, I believe both in the top 30 in the country.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. Milroe's playing again, which makes me feel a little better about Alabama, sticking with the right quarterback this week. But if you can't pass protect in the SEC against teams that are going to blitz you, they're going to play games up front on you. And the more that Alabama shows they can't block it, the more opponents are going to do it. It's Alabama's pass protection. Look, McClellan's going to be able to they're going to run the ball. Last year he ran the ball a decent amount. Alabama last week, McClellan was the only reason they scored any points, but they have to pass protect. It doesn't matter how mobile Milroe is. Mm-hmm. They need to be able to get passes off from a clean pocket, and that's their biggest problem right now. On the other side, I'm just going to throw one thing on the Ole Miss offense side. They need to finish drives more than any individual matchup or anything like that. Last year against Alabama, they only scored 3 touchdowns on 6 red zone trips, and 2 weeks ago against Tulane, they were only 1 for 3. They have issues finishing drives. Had they finished drives last year, they would have beat Alabama pretty easily last year. It was the theme of the game, really. They didn't play a bad game. Judkins had 135 and 2 touchdowns. Dart didn't play a bad game. They were ahead with 10 minutes left, I believe it was. They were ahead in that game 24-17 in the fourth quarter. They need to finish drives more than anything. There's times in big games where they're too big play reliant, and when they need to be workmanlike down the field. Because Alabama, the same thing we just talked about with Clemson. Complementary football. Mm-hmm. Play defense. Don't give up big plays. Run the football. Keep Milroe out of harm's way. Ole Miss has to finish drives when they have opportunities. To be honest with you, the only reason they didn't beat Alabama last year is because they just didn't kill them when they had a chance to. So they have to finish drives. That's what I'm looking for on Ole Miss's offense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Alabama's passing attack. That's exactly what I'm looking at against Ole Miss's defense in this game. They're 91st in the country in terms of EPA per pass. Tommy Rees has not been great. They have the 4th highest pressure rate allowed. You see right there at nearly 30%. The receiving grade is still not very good. Jalen Monroe has been a roller coaster so far this season. He had a 53.3 passing grade against Texas with 4 turnover-worthy plays. It's going to be interesting. I do think Monroe, like you said, is the correct quarterback to put in this game. But the Rebels, man, that defense is no joke. I mean, they have a pretty good defense. They have a top 20 highest graded defense in the Power 5. Also, top 20 in run defense grade, too. So if Ole Miss had a porous run defense, we would say, okay, Alabama is just going to run read option with Monroe, McClellan, and just win that way. Ole Miss doesn't have the run defense that you could just run over, man. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. And I think Jalen Monroe is going to have to do something as a passer in this game. He's going to have to do something. At Alabama offensive line, like you mentioned, with Ole Miss running the blitzes and stunts, they're going to have to step up in this game as well. So ultimately, Dalton, will Alabama step up? Will they get back on track? And will they beat the Ole Miss Rebels on Saturday?
I actually don't think so, even at home.
Mm-hmm.
The way they played offensively against USF last week, even with the other 2 quarterbacks in there, was just embarrassing. It's and now to put Milroe back in there, rusty after a week off. I have a hard time if this game becomes a shootout, believing Milroe can go in there and throw for 350, 400 if they need him to. Ole Miss can really score. I think they're 6th in the country right now in total offense. Lane Kiffin, and let's be real, Ole Miss is going to be motivated. They finally believe, we've mentioned it Monday, they've never played in the SEC title game, ever.
Yeah.
And with Alabama looking the way they look, and LSU being, I think we believe, really good, but I don't know that they're definitively better than Ole Miss. We're not going to know that, I think, till they play each other.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss feels like this is their time. And this is the game. You could argue this is the biggest regular season game in the last probably 10 years at least for Ole Miss. I mean, this is their best chance to finally jump Bama. And I think they do it. I'm gonna. Last year Alabama won 30-24. I'm gonna flip the score around and go Ole Miss 30-24 here. I think Alabama's offensive line and quarterback situation is way too concerning for me to pick against a team who, in Ole Miss, who put up 24 on them last year, were ahead late in the game on a team that still had, last year they had Will Anderson, Toto, they still had Brian Branch and Jordan Battle, and Bama's defense, they play fundamentally sound defense, but other than McKinstry, there's not really like a ton of superstars on the team right now. And against Judkins, and if these other guys, if the receiving core is healthy, and they just as long as they finish drives, I believe Ole Miss is going to win the game. I'm going 30-24 Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm taking Ole Miss as well. I'm taking Ole Miss, and Alabama's favored in this game, so we're both picking the upset. So if you're betting man, take Ole Miss money line in this game. I got Ole Miss 29-27 in this game. And what's going to be interesting, Dalton, is that I looked it up. Only three of Nick Saban's former assistants have gone on to beat him as head coaches of other schools. Jimbo Fisher did it when he was at Texas A&M, I think a couple years ago. Kirby Smart, obviously, in that national championship game did it. And Steve Sarkisian, a couple weeks ago, did it. Lane Kiffin, I think, will become the 4th ever former Nick Saban assistant to take down Nick Saban. And also the 4th ever, the 2nd in 3 weeks, man.